Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to be going through a new process of sculpting a mask, and this is a Hannya mask, so it's a Japanese inspired mask, so stay tuned. Right, so I'm starting out with an armature, which is the bust. It's a male bust by the company Monster Makers. It's the same company that makes Monsterclay. They have a male and a female bust. The male bust is a little bit bigger than the female, so that's kind of why I have the male armature, just because if you get the female bust, it's usually too small for any males that want to wear a mask or anything like that, so people just tend to go for the larger bust to cover all areas. And I got mine from Barnes here in Australia, but you can find them online, probably a lot easier to find in America than here in Australia. So what I'm doing is I'm starting off laying down the Monsterclay. Now Monsterclay is wax-based clay, so it doesn't go hard. It's mainly used for sculpting, moulding and casting things. So you ended up sculpting something that you want to mould and then cast in resin. So I'm using the Monsterclay to sculpt the mask in. So I've always been interested in masks ever since I remember, and I never actually thought I'd be able to make any masks myself. So I decided I needed a little bit of a change when I sculpted this particular mask, because I'd just done like a whole heap of wolf commissions, and I kind of got sick of making the same thing, so I needed to do something where my creative energy could just come out, and I've always wanted to sculpt a Hannya mask, so this is what I ended up doing. And Hannya mask is from a Japanese play called No, and it's from Japanese mythology as well. So in the mythology, a Hannya mask is a female demon who is created from jealousy. And you probably recognise it best from a lot of Japanese tattoos. I know they're quite popular these days, as opposed to the actual physical masks themselves. So you probably recognise a Hannya mask from the tattoos. Right, so I've just added on the ears really roughly. And I'm just sketching out where I want the mouth to be. So the mouth for a Hannya mask is usually open, and I wanted to change it up a little bit so it's not exactly the same as what you'd see in Japanese theatre. They're not so angry looking, made mine a little bit more angry, and I also changed up the teeth a little bit, so I put a bit more fangs in rather than they usually have just a few teeth, so I wanted to put a few more in so it was a bit more demon looking. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going ahead and sculpting out the eyebrow area. So eyebrows are pretty key to how you want your faces to look. I myself not overly great at sculpting people figures, so this wasn't exactly a person figure, but it was the closest thing I've sculpted to a person figure for a long time, and having the armature to go by really helped with proportions and everything, and how big I wanted things to look, and I highly recommend getting an armature if you're new to sculpting human type figures. I can sculpt animal figures, no problem, but when it comes to human figures, I find it quite difficult because it just never ends up looking like it's supposed to. So that's just not really my forte, and that's fine. So I like doing something that was a little bit out of my comfort zone, and it was kind of a human animal type figure, I guess. So it's not exactly human, and I really enjoyed doing it and how it turned out. Right, so I'm going to be working on the mouth area now, and a lot of the Hannya masks have a mouth that's sort of protruding out, and have quite large lips and stuff like that, so I'm just laying down roughly where I want the mouth to go, and then I can refine it a little bit with my tools and stuff once I'm happy with the way it looks and the proportion wise. So I'm just sort of squishing out the clay to make a lip shape, I guess. And then I'll end up carving some off just to my level that I'm happy with. It took me a little while to get the proportions right, because as you can see here, the mouth on the left side is a little different to the mouth on the right side. But like I said, this is just laying everything down first, and then we'll go and refine it once I'm happy with all the proportions and everything is laid down and Alright, and going in and adding some more of the teeth, so I'll be adding another set of fangs up the top here, right at the corner, just so it sticks out a little bit and makes it a bit more demon-like. I think I made them a little tiny bit bigger than the fangs at the front, so primarily, like I said before, the Hannya mask usually has the 2 fangs at the front, but I just added another one in. So I just quickly went ahead and made a rough horn shape as well, and just left them on there, but they ended up falling off and stuff, so I come back to them later on. But as you can see, I used the key system that I use for my Drogon sculpt, so if you haven't seen my Drogon sculpt, I'll try and link it below, and then you can probably get a glimpse of what the key system I'm talking about is. But essentially it is just a little notch where each piece fits in nicely. So once I cast it, I can fit the pieces in together and stick them together with epoxy sculpt, and it sits nicely and flush against the actual cast. Right, so working on the ears, and you can tell where I put the ears was not symmetrical at all, so I did go back and revisit the height of the ears once I had sculpted one that I was happy with, and then I went back and cut the ear off and placed it back to be the same height as the other ear and make it symmetrical. So I have a little list of tools that I use in a video. I'll try and link that down below as well. But if you want a more in-depth tool video, let me know in the comments and I'll try and work something out or do one for you. So I'm basically using a little wire tool that I can carve out with. So you can see how roughly sculpted and refined everything. I'll quickly go through it. There are the ears. The ears are symmetrical now. I added a little more definition to the jawline, and also added a second lip area to the mouth. And I have added some wrinkles to the nose area, and then I've just sort of carved everything flat, so there's no bumps or scrapes or anything in it. And I'm going to go in with this isopropyl Maestrate, and what that does is it makes the Monsterclay, the wax-based clay, quite smooth, but you will have to brush it on, and it will sort of get rid of this texture that you can see that was created by my rake tool. So it's not entirely smooth as it is, and then yeah, I'll go over it with the isopropyl Maestrate, and it sort of softens the clay a little bit because it's wax based. It will soften it, and then you can move the clay around and make it a bit smoother once it's gone all soft. And because I think it's alcohol based, it does evaporate, so it's not like water and it doesn't absorb into it. It evaporates and will dry out, so there's no worry about that. So I know a lot of people may mix 50-50 with isopropyl nitrate and isopropyl alcohol. I didn't have any isopropyl alcohol on me, so this would have to do for now. But, you know, it works great and it smooths a lot of things out anyway. So what I did was I used a slightly harder brush, nothing too hard, just so I could pick up any of that soft clay and actually move it around rather than just brushing the Maestrate around. So the harder, I've got two brushes here as you can see, so one's harder and one's softer. So I used the harder one to sort of dig up the clay, and then I used the softer one to smooth it out with that Maestrate, and that way you can achieve a nice smooth surface. So once this was done, I left it for about a day to dry. I haven't moulded it yet or cast it or anything, so it's still sitting right next to me with a well that's waiting with a well around the face so it can catch silicone. So I do plan to do it very soon. So I'll just go over quickly the horn process. So you can see how I've just kind of roughly carved and sculpted into a horn shape, and I can see you can see that I've left all of the little imperfections and markings in the horn. So I wanted it to look a bit old and raggedy, so I didn't go ahead and smooth out the clay before I did anything. So I wanted it to look kind of like it was broken, and I thought that would, you know, look good once it's painted and stuff. So what I'm doing now is I'm just carving out some of the little horn indentations, so just some details and stuff with this carving tool. This is just a cheap pottery tool that I got in a pack of things, and it comes in handy. So if you can get your hands on a cheap pottery pack, definitely get it, because it will help you out a lot with any details that you want to sculpt. So I didn't actually go over these horns with the isopropyl maestrate just because I wanted it to be raggedy again, but I have molded this. I've half casted it, if that makes sense. So once I've casted it, everything, I will have a couple of these masks for sale, but as for now, I haven't done it yet. I'm just super busy and I haven't got any time for that. I have a huge project going on, so I'll keep you updated about that too. And that is it for me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. If you have any requests, you can leave it in the comments down below. You can also check me out on Instagram and Facebook at Creatures of Nat, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!